Happy Monday, y'all. What is going on? Welcome to your WWE Raw review for August the 12th, 2024. I thought tonight's show was fun. I really did. I had a lot of things about, or that I saw on the show that I really enjoyed, had a blast watching it, really starting to, I guess, get used to, but also I'm still just blown away that Mondays are fun again. You know? I mean, how long has it been? We've had pretty good, year or so now of some pretty solid television since, the Vince McMahon shit hit the fan. But it is just really nice to know that you can tune into wrestling on Monday nights and watch 3 hours of wrestling and likely be entertained, where just a couple of years ago, it was a chore to watch this fucking show. And now it's entertaining as all hell. I can't say enough good things about how good WWE has felt over the last, 12 to 24 months. And tonight's show was another good example of how this was a really kind of in between Raw. SummerSlam is now, a week or so over, and you got a few more weeks until the next pay-per-view. I thought tonight might be like a throwaway Raw, a missable Raw, one that I might not even come up here and review. But right off the bat, they got cooking there with the Judgment Day and Rhea Ripley and Dominic and Liv and Damien Priest and all of that. We had some really interesting Drew McIntyre and CM Punk stuff tonight, Randy Orton and Gunther stuff as well, and another brutal attack from Bronson Reed, this time on The Miz and R-Truth. Pretty good stuff, but I can't say enough good things about the opening segment and match and post-match brawl tonight. All of that stuff centered around the Judgment Day, and it was a lot of fun. So we are going to review tonight's show. Probably not going to get into too much else. There's a little bit of wrestling news, but not much. We'll give the show a pretty casual review, and then I'll get out of here. Very busy day for me today. I didn't even really know until this afternoon if I was going to do a Raw review tonight, but I am glad that I'm here to hang out with you guys because tonight's show was good. And let me know what you thought in the chat of the show. Give me your grades, A, B, C, or D, 1 through 10. I thought it was solid, and it's nice, just like I said, to watch Raw and not be guaranteed to be bored off your ass. And it's nice. It's nice to be able to say that. Hopefully you guys are having a great Monday. Thank you so much for being here. I'll do some shout outs here, say hello to everybody, and we will get rolling here with what we're going to talk about this evening. I want to thank everybody who was here with us for the weekend. We did the big podcast on Saturday, and then last night we were here doing a watch along of SummerSlam 2003. That was a lot of fun. Back at it tonight for Raw. I'm going to try to get a video up for you guys midweek. Also working on a recorded video to upload hopefully before August is over, and a couple of other things going on the channel as well. So keep an eye out for stuff, for content, for videos, that sort of thing. You know what to do. Subscribe button's right down there, that like button. Smash the like. It could really help us out algorithm-wise here, especially on Mondays, kind of an off Monday like this, where I didn't know, how interesting Raw was going to be. But it turned out to be real interesting. So I'm excited to break it down here with you guys. Good to see everyone in the chat. Jacob A, we got Zane G, JJ Leg, Crazy J. Bad Eyesight, is this just a WWE channel? No, I talk a lot about AEW as well, and pro wrestling in general. But AEW and WWE is what we focus on. But there's always TNA stuff going on. Anytime we can talk about Mexico and Japan, we do. But AEW and WWE is what you will hear the most of on this channel. But Bad Eyesight, Saturdays are a good day for you to tune in, because that's when we talk about a lot of wrestling news that encompasses the whole world. So you'll hear more than just WWE shit on Saturdays. Daniel Barry is here as well. Roman Stone is in the house. We got Ricky Salvador. Rodrigo is here. We got Andrew, David Brown. We got Brandon. We've got the new one. What's up, man? Denny Down Bad, Zach Palgett, Ram K. Anybody else showing up here? Good to see you. Thank you for being here. And let's get rolling. Let me give this thing a little refresh here so I can make sure I see all of the chat. Isaac, good to see you. I'm not sure if I got you earlier. Did Rhea kill Liv and Dom tonight? No, she didn't. But there was I'm going to open with it here in a minute, Isaac. But there was a tremendous moment there. It's such a perfect, that's why I put it on the thumbnail, because that image of Priest standing behind Dominic and Liv is exactly why I like pro wrestling. It's exactly the type of stuff that I love. It's a perfect combination of comedy and violence, and I thought it was so funny. It reminded me a lot of Undertaker standing behind AJ in the Boneyard match or whatever, just the way Dom and Liv are up there talking smack, and then Priest just appears and reveals himself standing right behind them. So good. It was just Just something about it just tripped me out. I absolutely loved it. But we had a lot of fun tonight with the Judgment Day, but Priest and Rhea Ripley were really going to be out tonight looking for revenge. They got a taste of it, but didn't get all of it. And that's pretty much what the show opened with here. Now, earlier on in the day, it was reported, I believe it was WrestleVotes. I think it was WrestleVotes. I didn't write it down, son of a bitch. Pretty sure it was WrestleVotes who alluded to the fact that Judgment Day would probably be undergoing a name change. And the name that apparently is the front runner right now is Street Trash, which is kind of a funny name for a faction. If they're going to change the name from Judgment Day to something else, I would change their name to like Unforgiven or No Mercy or No Way Out or Bad Blood with 2 D's. Maybe an In Your House, maybe an In Your Clubhouse. Something like that. But sounds like Judgment Day, this new look Judgment Day with no leaders. Everyone is equal. At least that's what they're claiming until Finn Balor starts, treating everyone like they're beneath him and he starts acting like the leader of the group. If they're going through a name change, Street Trash, I don't know how I feel about it. If that's what it turns out to be. I'm fine with them calling them the new Judgment Day or just the Judgment Day faction continuing the same name now under its pretty much 3rd rendition if you go all the way back to the Edge days. But if they change their name to Street Trash, why not? It's a cool name for a faction. I can live with Street Trash. Maybe the Street Trash can face the Street Profits one day for the tag team titles. We will have to see. But anyway, tonight's Monday Night Raw was live from Austin, Texas. It's got to be hot as hell down there. Shout out to my Texas peeps in the chat. I'm sure it's hot there. And the show opened up with Rhea Ripley. Now, it was advertised earlier on in the day that Rhea would be opening the show tonight, so we already knew that. She came out, and of course, she's very upset. And she goes on to insult Dominic a little bit, and she says the line. They got a big reaction from the crowd. She goes, Dom, sorry to be the one to tell you this, but it just wasn't deep enough. I guess that's one way to say he is a little dick, I guess, which was pretty funny. Got a good reaction from the crowd. I loved that. And then she started turning her attention to Liv Morgan, called her out and told her to come down so she can remind Liv who she is and blah, blah, blah. And that's when Dominic and Liv showed up in the crowd. You hear Liv Morgan on the mic. I knew she would either show up in the crowd or on the Tron. There was no way she was going to walk down there and get in Ripley's face. So you hear her voice on the microphone, and her and Dom appear up in the crowd, up in the live audience there, and she is talking smack to Ripley, and Dominic, of course, is trying to speak, and the fans aren't letting him. And then Rhea actually tells the fans, like, hey, I love you booing this guy, but I actually kind of want to hear what he has to say. So Dominic says something to the effect of, I called you mommy, but I found someone who calls me daddy. She gives me tendies whenever I want. She lets me play video games whenever I want. She gets me, and she did something you didn't do. She helped me beat my deadbeat dad. So they're taunting Rhea Ripley. Liv is taunting Rhea Ripley, talking about how she took everything away from her. And Rhea says, you're right. You haven't taken everything away from me, but you have taken some things away from me. And she says, but since you've been running your mouth so long, it's given us an opportunity to find out where you are. And she said something like, you've been running your mouth so we can find out where you are. And then Liv goes, who's we? And then behind Liv and Dominic, Priest just comes through the curtain and just stands there. Just stands right behind him and just, oh my God, it was so good. They notice him. Liv gets spooked. She runs away. Priest grabs a hold of Dominic. He then drags him through the concessions area, all the way through another entrance, down the crowd, through the crowd, beating his ass through the crowd, gets him over the barricade, gets him in the ring, and now they're in the ring. He's beating the hell out of Dominic in there. Carlito comes out to save Dominic, but Priest gets rid of Carlito, and Carlito and Priest have got a one-on-one match. So after Dominic escapes, Carlito saves him, and they scurry away. We go to commercial, because after commercial, we're coming back to do Damien Priest and Carlito. So what I loved about all of this is how all of these like 3 segments kind of blended together, and they just got all of the Judgment Day shit done right. at the top of the show. Like, we didn't see several cutbacks to them backstage. They didn't come back out in the main event. Like, everything Judgment Day related was condensed into these first couple of segments, and it was really a lot of fun. So now it's Priest and Carlito. We knew Priest was going to fucking murder this guy, so there was no chance Carlito was going to win this match. He did not. South of Heaven to Carlito for the win. Right after the match, JD McDonough attacks Finn Balor, and then they swarm. Finn Balor, Dominic, and Liv Morgan all come in from behind and start swarming Damian Priest. That's when Ripley comes back out. She runs out there. She low blows Carlito in the aisleway, and she gets in the ring. And I think her and Damian dispose of everybody else except Finn Balor, I believe, right? And it's Rhea and Priest kind of cornering Finn Balor all by himself. JD McDonough comes in the ring and shoves Balor out of the way right before he's about to eat a super kick from Priest, and McDonough eats the super kick instead, and he gets a South of Heaven choke slam for his troubles. And right when you think it's over, this is when you think that's the end of it, and this was already pretty good. Everything we've seen up to this point has been super entertaining, and just when you think we're finally done with this segment, we get this great moment between Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, who are in the ring now together by themselves. They look at each other. They share this really nice hug. And that's when Dominic climbs to the top rope and jumps off to attack them while they're hugging. But Priest sees Dominic because he's facing Dominic. As he's hugging Ripley, Dominic's diving into them. He just sticks his hand out and grabs the little sack of shit by his neck. And, Rhea gets out of the way, and he's about to hit Dominic with the South of Heaven choke slam, but Liv is able to pull his foot off and save his ass, and they ran off. And all of that was so good. I cannot believe Dominic. That little extra added ending there with Dominic jumping off the top rope to try to attack him made me laugh out loud so hard. I don't know why. There was just something about it that looked fucking hilarious. The whole damn thing was great. I've really enjoyed the Judgment Day. I mean, they got off to kind of a rocky start there at first, couldn't really find their footing or identity. Edge goes heel only to turn right back to a babyface. And, without the centerpiece of the faction, we weren't sure how, it was really going to function without Edge, but it became its own thing and it reached heights that I didn't think it could. And we talked about this, in weeks past when I was like, man, this Judgment Day shit's pretty fucking entertaining. And it's been a great couple of years with this group. And I am sad to see it go, but I also have been enjoying the evolution and how this faction really has made stars out of Dominic. I mean, not that Rhea Ripley wasn't a star, but she really, I think, got on the map as the top woman in the business after her, association with Judgment Day. It elevated her, it elevated Dominic, it elevated Priest to main event world championship, status. It's even given, something for that big ass head JD McDonough to do. And it's been a great faction, and people who have been associated with the faction have been elevated as a result, with the exception maybe of Carlito. But for the most part, it's been great. It's been a fun couple of years, and I'm interested to see where this new version goes, because they're kind of like misfits, maybe they're a little bit weaker. Liv Morgan is not Rhea Ripley, and Dominic is not Damian Priest. Incidentally, we got a mixed tag booked for Bash at Berlin. They announced that right before the main event tonight on Raw, that it would be Dominic and Liv Morgan versus Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley at Bash in Berlin. And it also looks like they might be setting up a match for Bash in Berlin that I didn't think we were going to get between Drew and CM Punk, and we'll talk about that later. But everything that we saw in the beginning with Rhea Ripley's promo, the confrontation with Dom and Liv, Priest showing up behind them, the brawl, then the Carlito and Priest match, then the post-match brawl, then Dominic trying to attack the two while they're hugging and almost getting chokeslammed for his efforts. All of that was super fun. The image of all of the new Judgment Day members in the aisleway there kind of retreating. We'll see if they do, in fact, change their name to Street Trash, and we've got a new name next week. I thought we might get the new name tonight. And if they kind of rebrand the faction and as their own, and what we're seeing right now on TV is them just flushing out the rest of this to officially make the change. But if they stay with Judgment Day, I'm fine with that too. They can stay Judgment Day. I don't give a shit if they change the name or not. But if they did, Street Trash kind of sounds like fun. Although, I mean, is Fergal Devitt really street trash? He's such a fine gentleman, you know? But the rest of them, definitely street trash, especially that Dominic Mysterio. Oh man, so good. I really enjoyed all of that to open up the show. And when it was all done, I remember just like kind of smiling. I'm like, this is what Mondays should be. This is how it used to be. And it's just great. I cannot tell you how fucking good it feels to watch wrestling on a Monday and know that I'm probably going to be entertained every week. I still am just flabbergasted that that's the reality we're living in right now. It's awesome. We cut backstage after that. We've got Ivy Nile talking to Maxine. Maxine's with Otis and Tozawa. They have a match with the Creeds later on. And, you know, we can see the transition from Chad Gable's old faction to his new one. We're assuming Ivy Nile is going to be a part of this, but they haven't really, you know, gotten to that yet. Well, here you see Ivy kind of warning Maxine to stay in the back. You know, I think you should not get involved or not be at ringside tonight. All these guys are working through some stuff, and I don't want to see you get in harm's way. But Maxine's like, I appreciate it, but I got to stay with my team. And she's going to remain with them and remain by their side. That's because Maxine's awesome. See, there are regular hot women, and then there's Maxine. Another level. So we kind of, or I at least, had a feeling that might have been a hint right there, that backstage segment, because you know eventually Ivy is going to have to be a part of American Made, I guess is what they're called, and they are starting to tease you with it right there. Then we get a little vignette with Bo Dallas, who's it's in the typical Uncle Howdy Wyatt Six type of presentation, and Bo Dallas is talking about things all coming together because last week they made their in-ring debut, the Wyatt Six did, on Raw in Baltimore, and talked about how things started last week, but how it's all coming together. It's spliced in with images of Bray Wyatt, and then Bo Dallas repeating, my life for you, my life for you, my life for you. So not really sure what any of that means, but just more creepy shit. Obviously, this is just not even a joke, but obviously something that I don't believe is reality. But like, what if in some crazy universe, like Bray Wyatt faked his death? And the whole payoff to this whole thing is him showing back up. Then he'd go to jail for faking his death, and his family would be pissed at him, and there'd be a lot of people involved in the work. So obviously we know Bray Wyatt unfortunately did pass away, and he's no longer with us. But that would be, you talk about a swerve. My God, if the end of this thing, Bray Wyatt showed up in the ring and Sister Abigail'd somebody, you'd probably think you woke up in a different universe or something. It would be nuts. So we'll see Bo Dallas, you know, and the Wyatt Six, if it's still, you know, ultra focused on Gable and the Creeds, or if they're moving on. I don't know what, you know, who their exact targets are going to be, or if it's going to be one target at a time and they're still embroiled in this thing with Gable and the Creeds, or if they move on to something else. We'll see. After that, we got New Day backstage, and this whole thing has been driving me nuts because Xavier Woods clearly isn't all there, clearly has lower energy and a lower in amount of enthusiasm lately. He's been kind of being recruited by the final testicle, as Kofi called him. And then last week we saw the debut of Odyssey Jones, who came in and double sidewalk slammed both members of AOP. Extremely impressive debut last week for Odyssey. But Xavier, you know, after the fact last week said something like, oh, I didn't even know you guys knew each other or whatever. So he's kind of like alluding to the fact that he doesn't, you know, he wasn't in on this decision type of thing. And now they're backstage. Xavier rolls up on Kofi and Odyssey, who are backstage. And the first thing Xavier says is like, I've been looking all over for you. And I'm like, all right, there's another hint. And then he's like, oh, man, it's cool. I've been here with Odyssey, man. And, you know, he helped us out last week. So tonight I was able to secure him a match so we can repay the favor. He's going to have a match tonight, and we're going to be at ringside backing him up. And Kofi's over the moon about it. And Xavier's just kind of like, okay. But he goes through with it. They go out to the ring. I didn't even catch the name of the guy that Odyssey Jones faced. Some jobber. He looked like a guy named Silas who had a Van Life channel. He had a little bandana on. He was funny. Definitely looked like a vegan or something. So Odyssey, of course, kills him. And he's got Kofi and Xavier at ringside with him, backing him up. And then after the match, the final testicle come out. And Cross gets on the mic and is like, I can see what you're doing, Kofi. You're trying to replace Odyssey Jones replace Big E with Odyssey, and it's not going to work. And then Kofi gets on the mic and proposes basically a 6-man next week with the 3 of them against Cross and the AOP. And everybody agrees. But again, Xavier Woods is just not super overly enthusiastic. He's playing it great. I'm not criticizing how Xavier's playing the role because he's playing it properly. It's just too fucking obvious. Like, I want a little more subtlety, because Woods isn't being subtle. It is, I think Kofi might be blind. I put that on Twitter. I'm like, is Kofi fucking blind? How in the world does he not see that is normally super energetic and enthusiastic tag team partner is just a little bit not himself? And I guess maybe he's just blinded by his own happiness that he's found this new friend in Odyssey Jones and he just can't see. It's like, it's like when one member of a relationship is starting to get tired of you, but the other one's oblivious and just thinks everything's great. I guess that's what's going on with Kofi, but he should be able to recognize that his friend of nearly 15 years ain't acting right. I'm like, you all right, bro? At least give him one of those, but Xavier just doesn't seem like he's too interested. So whatever they're going to do with Xavier, I just wish they'd do it. It almost feels like the way the storylines are going that WWE can't decide either. Because for a while there, I thought maybe Xavier was going to join the final testicle. I even had this great idea of letting Xavier, who is a really creative guy, who does... he does enjoy a lot of the comic book stuff and superhero stuff and video game stuff. He's very knowledgeable in that regard. And I think that if he were to join and turn heel or join this dark type of faction in the final testicle, he could... I pitched this a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, you could let him kind of get a little bit nuts. You could let them try to, Cross spends all this time trying to recruit Xavier. Finally, he gives in. And he joins the group and he gets initiated into the group. But it almost like he's been waiting for something like this for so long that he just starts getting like really into it. Like in 99 when the Ministry started, they were starting to kind of mention. That's why I hate that the Ministry ended so quick, because I thought this had some legs. They kind of started talking about Mark Calloway and his character, starting to believe his character. They were alluding to that a little bit in like late 98, early 99 with The Undertaker. And with Xavier, if he were to join this group and become, I can picture him with like some dark makeup on his face and, really, really embracing the darkness. But then the darkness kind of turns and he just starts getting a little crazier. A little bit, kind of uncontrollable, unpredictable, to where his own faction who recruited him into the group is starting to look at him as someone who's not only a liability, but a little bit scary. And I think that might be something fun and creative that Xavier Woods could pull off, because he's super talented. He's got a lot of creativity, and I think he could have fun, especially if he drew inspiration from all these other, parts of entertainment that he enjoys. I wish I knew more about comic books and video games and superheroes, the way Xavier does, because I feel like there would be a lot of inspiration to draw. We've seen that in his New Day outfits and his gear throughout the years. So imagine if he takes that same idea, but do it, maybe as a heel or a more creative character, or something that could add a little bit of spice or a little bit of flavor to this horrible faction in the Final Testament, to where maybe Cross gets kicked out and Xavier Woods is the new leader of this Final Testament, and then Cross has to go try to be a babyface or something. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see Xavier replace Cross the way Damian Priest replaced Edge in the Judgment Day. Might breathe all new life into the Final Testament. And then one day, way in the future, if Big E, and props to Big E, shout out to Big E, we love you, Big E. He has been really good about giving the fans health updates on his neck and whatnot. Doesn't look like he's coming back soon, but he's acknowledged that anything can change. He's acknowledged that he's still holding out hope that an in-ring return could happen for him one day. So if that still happens in the future, you're going to have Xavier Woods do this for a year or two or whatever. And then maybe, Big E is cleared and he comes back to TV and him and Kofi say, let's go rescue our boy. He's lost. Let's go get him. New Day reunion, fans with tears in their eyes. Team wins the championships for the umpteenth time, goes into the Hall of Fame, and we all live happily ever after. In a perfect world, I'd book it like that. But I feel like whatever they're doing with Xavier, can you just pull the fucking trigger? Do we need this dragged out any more weeks? I feel like you can do it now. I feel like you've been able to do it for a few weeks now. And it's just like one more week after another. And this is like a C or D storyline too. This isn't even like, you know, they're top shit. So there's no reason to drag this out until fucking Survivor Series. Let's just turn Xavier, whatever you're going to do with him. Let's just do that. So we'll see. But I would like to see if they are taking Xavier in a different direction. I hope that he's able to showcase a lot of the talent that he has, because he's got a ton of it. So we will see. We had Drew McIntyre backstage. This was interesting. Now, he's backstage. He approaches Adam Pearce, who's on the phone. Pearce is on the phone, and right before Drew gets there, you hear Pearce saying something like, both of them. I want it finalized tonight. Now, we've been talking about a potential upcoming trade between Raw and SmackDown. I had pitched on Saturday, I believe, an idea of after Bash at Berlin sending Kevin Owens to Raw. Randy Orton is already kind of there. And if you were to do some sort of a trade, thinking along the lines in the terms of the Bloodline and their storyline and the Bloodline Civil War that we're likely to see at Survivor Series, feels like you need Jey Uso over there for that. And it would be really great if you put Sami Zayn over there for that too. And since Sami Zayn had probably his final shot at the IC title tonight, feels like the table is set for that. So we don't know who Pearce was talking about. He said he wanted it finalized tonight, which made me think maybe in the main event we get some bombshell announcement after the match. Pearce comes out and says, Jey and Sami, you have both been traded to SmackDown for Randy Orton and somebody else. I still think Kevin Owens would be the best option for that, but I feel like if you traded for Kevin Owens, then you'd be telegraphing him losing to Cody. I think we all know he's going to lose to Cody, but I'd rather see Owens come over after. So I don't know if that had anything to do with a trade or what Pearce was talking about, but it feels like at some point they're going to have to get Jey over there if they want to do that Bloodline thing. So we will see. I also, though, like the idea of Roman coming to Raw, because Roman, as we know, is not drafted. He was pulled from the draft prior to the draft, which means if he's got to come to Raw to do some recruiting or do some business, he can do that, and hopefully he will. So we will see. So don't know what Adam Pearce was saying on the phone, who he was talking to, who he was talking about, but maybe we'll find out soon. So he's then approached by Drew McIntyre, and Drew starts, he mentioned CM Punk, and Pearce goes, Punk is not here tonight. He's got some travel problems. And Drew is like, you think I care about CM Punk? I already beat him. I don't give a shit about CM Punk. What I'm here to talk about is Randy Orton. He's upset that Randy Orton has come into his turf and taken advantage of the timing to get a title shot. He doesn't feel like he deserves it or something. So he's going to go take care of Randy Orton, I guess, later on. And then after that is when we had the tag team match, Otis and Tozawa taking on the Creeds. During the entrances here, we had Otis and Oba Femi. Oba was in the front row with his North American Championship. The two of them had a face-off. Somebody mentioned in the chat they're facing on NXT tomorrow night. Is that legit, or is that just what you were suggesting? Because it sounds like that match might be on, and that's a lot of meat, man. That's a lot of meat. So that little face-off was cool. Now, during the tag team match, you got Maxine, who earlier on did not take Ivy Niles' advice to stay in the back. She's out there cheering on her boys, and then Ivy Niles shows up from behind and just attacks Maxine. Hits her from behind, face plants her on the table, gets on the table, puts her in a dragon sleeper on the table while Otis and Tozawa are distracted by this ass kicking. Tozawa is rolled up by the Creeds and pinned, and this officially now puts Ivy Nile in American Made. That's their team name. I wish they would use Hogan's WCW theme. That would be so great. But Ivy Nile now is officially in the faction. She has finally turned on Maxine. So they finally got all that done, because that was too much crap there lingering. We knew this was going to be Gable's new crew. So you had to do away with that Ivy and Maxine friendship, and they did it here. Before I get into the next thing on Raw, let me knock out a couple of these supers. One of them from the Juliet. What's up? Oh, shit. Thank you for the $2. Dakota Kai out with a torn meniscus. Wasn't she booked in a match last week and then they changed it? And I think I mentioned something about that. Like, I hope she's not hurt. Oh, man. Torn meniscus for the lovely Dakota. Get well soon. And thank you for two more bucks there, Juliet, in your retracted message. Can you guys not hear me? Okay. I was like, you can hear me, right? I didn't do a sound check. I can hear myself, Juliet. All right, you're good. I did. I turned my mic down? No? No, everything is still on the same levels I always do. We should be good, Juliet. Sorry for the technical inconvenience. Get that meat out of my mouth. I'll try. Okay, Jacob's got a 7 out of 10 for tonight's Raw. Yeah, last week I will agree was better, but they kept the momentum going here tonight. Last week was really tough to beat. That was a fantastic post SummerSlam Raw, way better than SmackDown. That's for sure. All right, where'd we leave off in our results here? We had a sit down with Peter Dune. He was up in the stands prior to the event today, talking to Jackie Redmond, just talking about Sheamus and his and how he pretty much hated his association with Sheamus because it gave him a stupid nickname and all that stuff, which was kind of funny. And they would have another run-in later on. And then we get Adam Pearce again backstage. Bronson Reed shows up again, much like he did last week, telling Pearce to find him an opponent or else he will go out and murder someone again. And we would be seeing him later on. Then it was time for a tag team, I guess, number one contenders match. I think this was supposed to be. So it's going to be the Pure Fusion Collective. That is the name of this faction with Zoe, Shayna, and Sonya. They're going to be taking on Damage Control. I guess the winner of this match gets a shot of the women's tags currently held by Isla Dawn and Melba Toast. And the tag team champs interfered in this match, causing the DQ and laid out everyone after the match. So they're still taking their time figuring out who is actually going to challenge Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. And Isla Dawn, by the way, I have not been giving her enough credit. So we'll see. They are now the tag team champs again after upsetting Bianca and Jade. And that wasn't just a fluke. They've kept them now. And I'm starting to wonder if there's even a point to try to rebelt Jade and Bianca. But they're still kind of teaming together. So I don't know what they're doing with them. I feel like they're just killing time for the both of them until they can put them in a program. We will see. We had an R-Truth and Miz segment that I didn't find stupid this week. That was great. Sometimes, I mean, R-Truth is great. Love R-Truth, but, you know, sometimes this comedy can grow a little old. And in a lot of recent weeks, I've kind of been tuning out their segments with R-Truth because they're just mildly funny at best. But this one was good. I laughed at this one. So Truth is trying to, I guess, cheer up the Miz. The Miz is there. He's just kind of dejected or whatnot. And Truth is trying to cheer him up. And he goes, "Are you mad because you didn't get a match in your hometown of SummerSlam?" He got to host the event, so I don't think he was really mad at that. But Truth felt like one way he could cheer up his buddy is to get him an Intercontinental Championship match against Braun. "Hey, man, I got you a championship match against Braun tonight." And Miz is like, "Oh, really? You did? Wait a minute. Isn't Braun facing Sami Zayn tonight?" And then Truth's like, "Oh, I don't know about that, but look, and they got his TV screen. He's like, look, here's the match graphic, and it's the Miz versus Braun Son Reed." Oh, what a great reveal. And then Miz is like, "Oh, mother son of a bitch." And so Miz is freaking out. And then Randy Orton shows up, just casually strolls in. And he's like, "You got this, Miz. Go on, man. You're a fucking former champion. You can do this. No big deal. No big thing. Just go on out there." And he gives Miz kind of like a little hilarious pep talk. And then Miz is like, yeah, I can do this. And he storms off, and Randy just literally does not give a fuck. And R-Truth is like, "You think you can really beat him?" And I think Randy just walks away or something. So that whole little interaction there was pretty funny. The way he's got a match against Braun Son Reed. Crazy. Good stuff. Love that segment. Then we get a Randy Orton promo. He's coming out to the ring, of course. He's got the match against Gunther at Bash in Berlin that I think is going to be really, really good, really fun. I love these two. They're dynamic because Randy Orton is who he is. We all know all about Randy Orton and his reputation, his toughness, how dangerous of a person he can be and what a viper he can be. But then on the other side, you got this brick fucking wall in Gunther, who sweats no one, looked right at Randy Orton, put his lips right on his ears last week and says, nothing catches me out of nowhere. Nothing. Fuck you. Bring it. Who says that shit to a former 14-time world champion who will punt your wife's head off if he has to? You got to love that confidence, even in a heel. Like, everything about Gunther is just so perfectly presented. And one thing Randy did bring up, which was interesting, he brought up that 20 years ago, I don't know the date of SummerSlam 2004, but we're right at the 20-year mark of his first World Heavyweight Championship victory, and he made reference to that match, even said that it made him the youngest world champion in history. He just forgot to mention who he beat. I'm trying to remember who he beat in SummerSlam 2004. I really wish he would have mentioned that to the crowd, just to refresh the crowd's memory in case they want to, go to Peacock and watch the match and relive great moments. But Randy Orton, he must not have remembered who he beat for the title. He probably just forgot. But if anybody knows, please let me know who he faced at SummerSlam 2004, because there's just no way to find out otherwise, unless Randy told us. But he forgot to mention that, and he said that history will repeat itself in Bash in Berlin when he wins his 15th championship. So this then prompts Gunther to come out. And they're both like the same height too. These are just two big, tough fuckers. And it does kind of have a little bit of an NWA, vibe to it. Maybe like a Rick Rude and Barry Windham type of thing, only stronger. And I just love the dynamic. So Gunther, showing no fear, ultra confident, standing right up to Randy Orton. I mean, there is, one cool thing. It's not like, with Gunther being confident and standing up to Randy Orton, it's not like he's disrespecting him per se, because he does respect Randy. There is a respect there you can tell between the guys, but there's also a firm confidence from both. I can beat you. They both believe they can beat the other. And that's kind of what I like about the dynamic. But then Gunther does start to tread into the territory of disrespect when Randy Orton talks about all the mistakes he's made and admits that he's probably made more mistakes than anybody else in the entire WWE locker room. And then Gunther brings up his grandfather, brings up Ace Orton, his grandfather and his father, and says they were both screw-ups, and he's a screw-up just like his grandfather and his father. And that's when Drew McIntyre comes out. Now, McIntyre already alluded to the fact that he's got an issue with Orton backstage with Pierce, so he comes out and comes to the entranceway, and I'm thinking he's going to get in the ring, and I'm like, are we looking at some future triple threat match or something like that, or maybe a match between Orton and Drew leading up to Berlin or something? I don't know what they're going to do. And McIntyre's in the aisleway with the microphone, and before he says anything, Gunther turns around to look at him, and when he turns back around, Randy Orton is there waiting to hit him with an RKO. So Gunther gets RKO'd out of nowhere 1 week after he said nothing catches him out of nowhere. Well, this sure as shit did, and he went down. I loved that. I thought the whole thing was good. So Gunther gets RKO'd out of nowhere, and right after that, CM Punk shows up, jumps the barricade, attacks McIntyre, and they start brawling. So I think Gunther retreats. Orton just lets Drew and Punk do their thing. Punk is now attacking McIntyre. Pierce earlier said that Punk was not at the show because he was experiencing travel issues. I thought that was a cover just for Punk not being booked, because he's not like full time. Punk still does take weeks off here and there. So I thought he wasn't on the show either. So when he hopped the barricade and started attacking Drew, that was a surprise that I wasn't expecting and that I really liked. And Drew immediately is able to fend off Punk. And then McIntyre takes off his belt. And he goes to whip CM Punk, but Punk blocks it. Punk then takes control of the belt and just starts really whipping Drew, like a lot. You know, he didn't just like whip him with it 3 times, throw the belt down and go get a chair. The whole thing was about whipping Drew, and he kept whipping Drew until Drew retreated, jumped over the barricade, and literally ran away from CM Punk. And then CM Punk has got the belt in the ring, and he looks right in the camera, and he kind of holds it up to his face. And I'm like, uh-oh, dog collar match. Dog collar match or strap match is what they're teasing there. And that would be super fun, especially if it was dog collar, you know, because, you know, you think of MJF and Punk's in AEW. What if Punk tries to do one now, a dog collar match in WWE? And, you know, it might not be able to be as bloody as the AEW one, but that might be fun. But I also think a strap match is a little bit more likely for WWE, you know, to where that way they can maybe avoid having to do some blood. And you got another gimmick match. And after Punk does that, they cut backstage to a little segment with Ludwig and Sheamus is attacked by Pete Dunne with the shillelagh. So Pete Dunne and Sheamus are headed for, you know, a collision either on TV or they might stick that on the pay-per-view. I don't know. And then after that is when Kathy Kelly catches up with CM Punk, fresh off his whipping of Drew McIntyre. And Kathy was like, hey, I was a little surprised that Adam Pearce said you were having travel problems because you and me were on the same flight. And Punk was like, yeah, I know. We even sat next to each other. See, the thing is, Kathy, I told a little white lie because I knew Drew was a fucking pussy and I knew he would not show up here if he knew I was here. So I lied. I said I wasn't going to be here tonight in order to lure Drew McIntyre in so I could attack his dumbass. And he talked about the bracelet. He goes, I don't even care about the bracelet. It's not the bracelet. Keep the bracelet. It's the fact. It's the principle of the fact that you need to keep my wife's name and my dog's name out of your mouth. And then says something about being attached to each other. And he's holding the belt. He's holding McIntyre's belt. And he's like, you know, being attached to each other. And he goes, and I just think I figured out a way to make everyone happy. So that means he's going to go talk to Adam Pearce about making either, number one, a strap match or a dog collar match, which both would serve the same purpose. They would tether Punk and Drew to each other so there can be no running away. So it's kind of like another gimmick thing. And if they do this at Bash in Berlin, I think that's great. I didn't think Punk would make the trip over to Bash in Berlin and do a match. I just didn't. So if Punk and Drew have a strap match or even better, a dog collar match at Bash in Berlin, that can be great. And then you still can blow the whole thing off in Hell in the Cell in October. So if it's a strap match, I think maybe Punk gets this victory. Then it's a rubber match. Then it's 1-1 going into Hell in the Cell at Bad Blood. That's probably what's going to happen now. And I definitely feel like they have teased or hinted at a strap or dog collar match between those two guys, and that's going to be very fun. After that was time for The Miz's execution. The Miz was put in a match against Bronson Reed by his buddy R-Truth, who thought he was scoring an Intercontinental Championship match for The Miz against Braun Breaker, but it was Bronson Reed instead, and you know how this went. Miz got tsunami'd for the win. And then he's going to do a repeat of what he did last week to Seth Rollins. After he smashes and squashes the Miz, he goes back up for another tsunami, but R-Truth stops him. He pulls Miz out of the way. He stands in the way, and fucking Bronson Reed just jumps anyway and hits him with like a top rope high cross body. It's basically a tsunami with Truth standing up, hits him with it, and then goes back and hits him with 3 tsunamis. Now, of course, the whole time, you've got 7 or 8 WWE officials out there surrounding R-Truth while Bronson keeps coming off for tsunamis. And, you know, I'm no strength coach, okay? I'm not a gym rat. You know, I don't train people. I'm not a personal trainer. But I'm pretty sure that if all 7 of those men that were in the ring, those 7 WWE officials, if they would have combined and harnessed all 7 of their strengths into one big super strength, they just might have enough power to pull the 220-pound carcass of R-Truth out of the way. I mean, it would take 7 of them to do it. But I think if they really, really like dug deep for every little ounce of energy they could get, they might have enough strength to pull R-Truth out of the ring and out of harm's way. But unfortunately, even with all of those men combining their strengths, it just wasn't enough. They just did not have enough strength to pull R-Truth out from the ring, and allowed him to get tsunamied 3 times. Adam Pearce is one of the WWE officials, former wrestler, who just could not find the strength to move R-Truth. He's screaming, flipping out, losing his shit the whole time, yelling at Bronson Reed, actually convinces him to stop and walk to the back with him, and then Bronson turns back around, goes and hits R-Truth with another tsunami. And then Pearce yells at Bronson and basically says, I will suspend you or fire you, whatever he said to just call off Reed. And finally, Pearce is able to convince him. I don't know what he's got to give up in return. Sounds like Bronson Reed just wants opponents, and Pearce has got bigger fish to fry. I don't know why he's not giving Bronson Reed a match on Raw. He's a wrestler there. Why not just give him guys? Give him, if he wants to beat people up so bad, there's a whole bunch of people on the roster he can beat up. Just book a fucking match. How hard is it, Adam Pearce? I thought my, fellow member of the Bald Alliance would be smarter than that, but I guess not. So we'll see what Pearce does to Bronson or for Bronson, or what he had to offer to him to pull him off, or if it was a threat, if it was more an offer or a threat. Like, did he say, okay, I'll give you a title shot against this person, or stop doing it or you're suspended? I don't know. I don't know what championships there can really be for Bronson Reed to go after right now on the Raw brand. Here is an idea. He could get traded to SmackDown. That could be something that they do with Reed leveling all these people. It could be too much for Pearce to want to deal with, and he could send him over to SmackDown as well. So maybe it's Jay and Sammy and Reed for, I don't know, Owens and Orton and DIY or something. Who knows? We'll see. And then it is time for our main event. This is going to be an Intercontinental Championship match. Braun Breaker and his stupid fucking name defending his championship against Sami Zayn in a 2 out of 3 falls main event. This was pretty good. I actually thought the match was good. We knew how it was going to go. Sami Zayn wasn't going to regain the championship here tonight. But 2 out of 3 falls was, something different and a cool main event, I thought, to have on Raw tonight. And Sami actually got the first fall, got the first victory, Helluva Kick to Braun Breaker to go up 1-0 in the 2 out of 3 falls match. Second fall goes to Braun Breaker, who hits a spear for the win. And then Act 3, third fall, good back and forth between the two. In the end, Sami, I think, jumps off the second rope. He's speared in midair right down to the mat. That's your finish, right exactly at the top of the hour. And Breaker wins, retains the title, and the show goes off the air. So we didn't get any answer of who Pearce was talking to on the phone. Nobody showed up and attacked these two guys. And then Pearce announced that Sami is being traded or whatever. So we might have to wait another week, or maybe we will get some answers or another hint perhaps on SmackDown. SmackDown, by the way, starts on the USA Network in 1 month, September 13th. SmackDown will now be airing on the USA Network, which will be helpful for me because I can now watch it live whenever I'm home on a Friday. If I'm home on a Friday night now, I can't watch SmackDown live as it airs because it airs on Fox and I have to wait until 8 p.m. to watch it here on the West Coast. But Raw on the USA Network airs live at 5 p.m. SmackDown, I believe, will do the same when they move over to USA Network. So it's going to make it much easier for me to be able to watch SmackDown, because right now I usually just catch the replay. So that's coming up here on September 13th. And I'm really looking forward to that change. Get off SmackDown. That's been it's good ratings for them. I mean, that's a big network deal. They got a lot of money in that deal, but my God, that was getting really brutal there, especially at the end with a lot of the edits and the bleeps and the audio crap that they were doing. Being on the USA Network will be a little bit easier, and then Raw is going to let it all hang out on Netflix. I think they can just do whatever they want. All right, let's cruise to the chat, see if you guys have anything to say. I knew tonight would be kind of a a short review. The bald community, that's what I was trying to think of. The bald community, that's better than the bald alliance. A community. Yeah, Juliet. Yeah, it's a strap match or dog collar. I think dog collar would be so much more fun, but they're going to do the cell. They're definitely going to do the cell between Punk and Drew. So maybe that final match, maybe this will be a strap match and then the cell. They can use a little blood, in that match. I think Drew and Punk definitely needs to have some blood. They've already seen some blood. You would think that the blow off or any other sort of crazy hardcore match with a stip is going to have to see a little bit of color in one of these things. So maybe they bleed for Berlin. It's possible. Zangy. I love Zangy. No shit, Rodrigo. File under Sherlock, comma, no shit. Oh my God. Is Tito here? Is Tito with us? Oh yeah, there he is. Poor fella. It's hot. It's so hot today. My God. I got a fan right here on me. And now that the sun is down, it's getting a little bit cooler, but it was a hot one in SoCal today. Also got my my lease renewal in the mail, so another year here in email. So really wasn't 100% sure if we were going to stay in this house another go around, but we are. So you'll have me here at least one more year in this setup. I've even been thinking about maybe reconfiguring things in here and maybe simplifying it, maybe getting rid of all the videos and have a little more simple. Because right now I'm kind of streaming at an angle. If I sit straight ahead, this is where my computer is. So I might reconfigure things, maybe turn the desk, get a wall behind me, display, something like that. Maybe simplify the setup because this is pretty fucking obnoxious that I have going on right now. But it looks good on camera. Everybody likes it. But, now that I'm going to be here at least another year, maybe I can do another studio video. I did that big studio build a couple years ago where I showed you guys how I put all this together. So maybe I can do another one and, maybe simplify things and do a little bit more simpler of a setup, but one that still looks good. We'll see. Just ideas that I'm tossing around right now in my head. I don't know. Yeah, if somebody's mentioning the possibility of Colt Cabana coming in, yeah, I don't think Punk and Cabana are ever going to be on good terms again. Yeah, the vids behind me are really great background, but I know that whenever I leave this house, I'm probably not going to do that again. I'm going to do something else that still looks really good, just a different type of display behind me. So just kind of thinking about maybe simplifying this room in here a little bit, just ideas. But I do like the way this is set up. It looks really good, and I do like the background, but I also like to change things, and, we'll see. One day I'm going to be coming up here live, and you're like, what the hell's going on behind him? We'll have to wait and see. All right. Well, I guess that's probably going to be it for tonight. I've kind of just been running my mouth here since we got started, or since we've finished up with the notes, excuse me. But I knew tonight was going to be kind of a short, kind of a casual review. Also, one thing I do want to mention also is that I guess Daniel Garcia is really weighing his options. There's still a lot of speculation on where Daniel Garcia is going to land. Fightful Select had an update on this today, where they did mention that his contract is up, I believe, in October, and he's basically trying to weigh his decision. I think he's really undecided right now what he wants to do. And we've talked about him a couple of times in the podcast where he is kind of a tough one. It's kind of tough for a fan, I think. As long as you're not tribal and you're not fucking dumb, and you can just look at this thing objectively and Daniel Garcia and think about the landscape and WWE and AEW, and you don't have any pre-existing unhinged hate already living inside you for anybody, and you actually just look at the situation, it is kind of hard because you can say, like, on one hand, he could be a lot of fun in NXT and he'd be in the WWE machine with a lot of other people from AEW that are there now and benefiting from better organization in WWE than what they were dealing with in AEW. But then again, Garcia got over and got exposure and got fans familiar with him in AEW. He found little things that have worked for him in AEW. He found support in AEW. So it's got to be hard. I feel like Garcia would have the better chance if he wants to be like a major star. I feel like he's got a better chance in AEW for that, where in WWE, he's going to be, land of the giants, multiple brands, mega stars in that company. I don't know how many Raws he can main event, but he can definitely main event some Dynamites. So it depends on what his ambitions are, whether they're career related, money related. Because if it was down to just money, I think his decision could probably be made already. So it might not be that. And it is hard. Some people are easy to decide where you would want to see them as a fan. And Garcia is one of those tricky ones. So if it's tough for a fan to kind of feel where he would be best, imagine how hard it is for him to decide that. So whatever he decides, we wish him the best. I think he'd be fun in NXT. And eventually to the main roster, but that might be a long road for him getting there, where in AEW, he's already there. He's already got a built-in feud waiting for him with one of their top stars when he comes back. He will not have that in WWE. So I feel like AEW probably should be where he should stay, but it's got to be tough to be tempted by WWE, especially when you see some other AEW personalities doing so well there. It's got to be tempting. It's got to be attractive. So we'll monitor the situation wherever Garcia ends up. But we could see Daniel Garcia and Ricky Starks and the Lucha Brothers all in WWE in just the next few months, which is totally wild. Totally wild. Roman Stone, fake your death for a wrestling angle. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. I'm kidding. I was kidding about Bray Wyatt faking his death. But, think about how wild that would be. I love what ifs. I'd be relieved that he was still alive. But this ain't no soap opera. This is this is real life. Yeah, Juliet, good point. That's what I just said with Garcia. Staying put means program with MJF. And probably some revenge, as we did see the way those two left each other off, with Garcia being bloodied by MJF. Definitely got a storyline waiting there, so we will see. Yeah, now Starks is a different one, Juliet. Starks, I fully believe, is gone, all but gone. Even if technically he's still under contract to AEW, he ain't going to stay. He's not going to re-sign. He will go to WWE 100%. So Ricky feels like a done deal. Lucha Bros and Garcia still kind of in the what it and maybe phase, or not sure phase, but sounds like Luchas are reportedly heading over as well. So WWE is targeting a lot of AEW talent they might hear about being available soon contract wise. And that's what's cool about free agency, is now that AEW has been around long enough for contracts to expire, both companies are going to have multiple contracts every year come up, which means we're never going to stop talking about this. And there's nothing bad about that. That's awesome. I love the speculation. I love wrestlers having the opportunity to jump to new, fresh environments, fresh starts type of thing, reinvent yourself, to where you don't get stagnant or you don't get complacent. And that's the way it was when WWE was the only game in town for 20 damn years. Now you're seeing people, being able to move around and jump ship. How long was, think about Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston, Dolph Ziggler, all those wrestlers that weren't around or in the company during the time when there was competition. They spent all their years there. Next thing you know, you turn around and blink and Ziggler's been there 15 years or longer, whatever it was when he left. So, a lot of guys and girls spent a lot of time in the company because there was really nowhere else to go. Now, if AEW remains a legitimate competitor, it remains a strong number two, Tony Khan remains in charge with his unlimited Tony Khan money, and they remain in place for the next several years to come. I don't know if we're going to see, outside of the major talent, yes, but I don't know if we're going to see any mid-card talent staying in one place for 12 years. We might not. Some of the bigger stars, the Randy Ortons and the Kenny Omegas and, whatever, they're probably going to be in their companies for life. But incidentally, it was reported too, it is believed that Randy Orton has signed a contract extension as well with WWE. So he's never leaving. So some of the top stars, there's no chance of Roman Reigns ever going to AEW, but virtually everybody else, there's a very likely chance they could maybe want to go leave and explore greener pastures. We're going to be seeing Ricochet turn up in AEW any day now, right? Hopefully there's still time to get him there and have some sort of a presence at All In. We'll see. Or maybe he shows up there to challenge Ospreay for All Out. We'll have to see, but that match is going to happen. Bottom line is competition is fun. Free agency is even more fun. And when contracts are up on both sides, it allows you to be able to speculate and talk about and kind of fantasy book where you think people could go. Oh, and then we can picture someone. Picture an AEW star in a WWE ring or an NXT ring. Oh my God, they could do this, this, and this. Oh, think about this match and this match. You can do that both ways. And, these are the type of things as a fan I got to talk about with other wrestling fans in the 90s and shit when you had this, and just hasn't been around in 20 years. And it's really nice. It's really cool to talk about contracts being up, people jumping ship, defections, that type of thing. I love it. I love it. I live for it, man. But anyway, I got to live for some dinner and get out of here because I'm hungry. I got more Shameless to watch. I'm on season 7 of that show, by the way. And I've caught up on all the A&E biographies. We have to watch The Miz and Mark Henry. Those are both 2 hours long. Haven't watched those yet, but caught up the rest of them. The Trish one was good. The Becky one was good. The Paul Heyman one was good. Watched all those. But tonight I'm going to kick it with some dinner and watch some Netflix and probably chill, Hey, good point, Rodrigo, about Wardlow. Wardlow's another one that I feel like, again, we're going to baselessly speculate here for a second. Not knowing anything about his contract, don't know shit about his situation, don't know how much time he has left, don't know if he's fucking miserable there, or if he still wants to try to make it work in AEW and, re-sign a contract with them and try to become a big star there. But it feels like Wardlow wants out and probably will leave when his contract is up, however long it is. And he might be in a similar situation to Ricky Starks, where Tony Khan sees the writing on the wall. I know he's leaving. He's got 8 months left on his contract. He's definitely leaving. Why am I going to put him on TV and use him and push him and expose him when I know he's going to leave? Unless you want to bring him in to job him out, but Tony seems like the guy that focuses on the talent he has available. Because when we see guys maybe not being used or frustrated and absent from TV, like a Miro, like a Starks, like a Wardlow, I feel like maybe Tony just knows, they're as good as gone. So I might as well just not use them at all. I mean, at this point, what would be the point of even bringing Wardlow back to even job out to anybody? Maybe MJF, but anybody else, who cares at this point? Just let him go. So it's a shame. It's a shame. But if Wardlow went to WWE, he's somebody that I would like to see start in NXT, and get on a little roll and then go to the main roster, and you put Wardlow and Braun Breaker face to face, man. I hope Wardlow makes the jump too, because AEW has nobody to blame but themselves for that. Because Wardlow people were getting behind him, man. He was getting momentum, and AEW is just, they've done a lot of things right, and they've just had a few hiccups, and Wardlow is one of those big creative hiccups to where I'm like, how did you had a star here on a silver platter here. All you got to do is take it. Why didn't you take it? So little things like that. So if I'm Wardlow, if I'm sitting in Wardlow's shoes, I would think from his perspective that looking at WWE, they're less likely to do that to me. Because in WWE, when they see something starting to work, they capitalize. When AEW sees something starting to work, they don't quite know how sometimes, and a lot of times they fuck it up. So if I'm a talent, I'm considering that. Tony's great. Love working here. AEW's fun. Fans are fun. Going to TV, pay-per-views are fun. But ultimately, if I really, really want to be a star, I'd rather go somewhere to where they're more conscious of their investments. Hey, we're paying this guy crazy money contract. We've invested in him. We've created merch for him. We've created a name for him. Our creative department has come up with stuff for him, and we've put man hours into him. Why would we just stick him in catering? We need to, try to make this work and try to turn him into a star and try to have him find something that connects, that fans can relate to, and that helps get him over and build some momentum. And then if he gets it, they're going to push him even harder. They're not going to forget about him or stop and start or none of that. If people in WWE start doing shit that gets over, WWE wants to pounce. They're even doing it to people not even in their own fucking company. They saw all the attention Joe Henry was getting. We want some of that. So if you're a wrestler, you can see, man, all I got to do is do something to get over. If I can just connect with the audience or get myself over even on my own, they're likely to run with that and try to turn that into an opportunity. And you see that in WWE because of how their machine is run. And that's why for certain talent, not all, but for certain talent, that can be a more attractive place to be, especially if you're in a specific certain spot. If you're a main eventer in either company, or if you're a worldwide known wrestling name who's a main eventer and has been a main eventer in multiple companies, this isn't a problem for you. Because you're going to just be a main eventer. It doesn't matter which company you're in. You've already got, you've got already the equity built up and people who know who you are. And you don't have to worry about trying to find things to connect with the audience to get you to the next level. You're already there. But some of these other talents that have been close or on the cusp of finding it and then doesn't work out, those are the ones that I think can benefit more from a WWE system. And Wardlow is one of the best examples of that, to where I think a change for him and a jump over to NXT and WWE would be tremendous. I'd love to see him there with Ethan Page and Spears and Pillman and the other one. I think there's more than that there, right? So, yeah. Competition's great. Right on, guys. All right. Well, Tito stirred when I mentioned dinner, did he? Are you hungry, buddy? I think it's time to go. All right, you guys have a great rest of your Monday night. Thanks for hanging out tonight for the Raw review. I'll have some small videos, clips, mic drop, something on the channel this week for sure. I will schedule our watch along for Sunday. Haven't decided which one we're going to do yet, but I'm going to look at some road wild cards, and we might make the switch to WCW this Sunday. So stay tuned, stay subscribed, all that.